I should have allowed the man to spike her drink. I was at a cafe with my friend and we were just having a full English breakfast. It's a good cafe and I have been eating there for many years now. I was just catching up with my friend, but I couldn't help but notice that an awkward tension was coming from the table in front of us. I assumed they were on a date which went wrong or a long-term couple with issues. The cafe is in the city center, and so it's always pretty busy, but the service is always top-notch. The whole time I was there, I couldn't help but get a weird vibe from the table in front of us. There was something about the couple in front of us. You know how you can sense that something is off with someone? Like their mental state has been rattled and their emotional state is a little wobbly? Well, that's what I got from these two. Then the woman got up to go to the bathroom, and it was just the guy now. The guy definitely had a worried look, and he looked stressed. I could tell that he didn't like how busy the cafe was getting. Then I saw him put something in the woman's drink. I couldn't believe I saw that happening right in front of me. I then saw him do it again, and I say to my friend about what I had just saw. My friend looked at the guy, and he did it again. He put something in the woman's drink. Nobody else saw it. And then when the woman came back and was about to drink her drink, I stopped her. I told her what I had just saw, and my friend backed me up, and she threw the drink at the guy. The whole cafe went quiet, and they were all staring at the guy. He had a scared look on his face, and he muttered, "You don't understand. This isn't what it looks like." Then another customer in the cafe shouted out loud, "Then what does it look like then?" The man was lost for words, and he was clearly embarrassed. He tried to talk, but he was just muttering now. And then he just walked out. We talked with the woman, and she was staying at a hotel. We wished her the best. Later that day, we hear breaking news from that very same hotel. Hotel stayers had been killed by some creature. The police managed to kill the creature, and the creature turned back into the human that it had taken over. It was the woman from the cafe. So many people were killed in that hotel. We should have let the woman drink the drink, because whatever was put in her drink, the man was right, and we clearly didn't understand. I love screaming like I'm being brutally murdered. I love screaming like I'm being brutally murdered, and it all started a couple of weeks ago. I went out into my balcony and I heard someone screaming like they're being murdered. I wanted to join in, and so I started to scream like I am being murdered, and it was so much fun. It was also a great release of stress and anxiety. Then, another time that I go outside into my balcony, and just like last time, I would always hear someone screaming so loud and it propelled me to join them in their screaming. It was something so different, and it gave me a break from the normal routine of just going to my flat and watching TV. My neighbors started getting really angry at me for screaming like I'm being brutally murdered, but I didn't care because there were other people outside that were also screaming like they were being murdered. It was like I had found another world that I belonged in, but I had never met the people before. We all screamed and screamed so loud, and we would do it together as one, and it connected all of us. I knew I wasn't alone, and so I kept on doing it, and when you aren't alone, things are so much easier to do. I tried getting a couple of my neighbors to join in the screaming, and I would take them into my apartment and out into the balcony. When the first scream could be heard, I would start screaming as well. They were so shy, and they looked really disturbed by everything as I was screaming like I was being murdered. The other person that we could all hear screaming so loud, that person was screaming like they were being skinned alive. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my neighbors to join me in screaming, and it was just me in my apartment and to the strangers outside who I have never met that were screaming. I had never been part of something like this before, and this was really special to me. Our own little screaming club, and we were all strangers screaming from wherever we were. I was really unpopular at this point among the block I lived in. Then, on the news, it had reported that an insane killer had been caught in my area, and after that, I couldn't hear any more screaming. I was really sad, and I kept on screaming like I was being murdered for a little while. But doing it all alone is really difficult. I soon lost the motivation to carry it on, and I miss my screaming group so much. I am a fully grown man, and I am stuck in a trolley child seat. I am a fully 6'1" grown man, and I am stuck in a trolley child seat, and I don't know how I got into that tight, small child seat inside a trolley. I remember waking up and feeling so painfully tight around my hips, belly, and upper legs, and I am struggling to breathe. There is a woman pushing the trolley around while I, a fully grown man, is stuck in the child seat. Every time she pushes the trolley around the supermarket, it really hurts my body so bad, and I groan in pain. The woman pushing the trolley just tells me to shut up, and I am trying to get out of the trolley child seat, but I am stuck. How I got into the trolley child seat is just impossible, and I have no memory of it. I just went to sleep one night, and when I woke up, I was in a trolley child seat. But I really want to know how. It's impossible to get in as a fully grown man or adult, and so to even get out of one seems impossible. Then I see other people pushing trolleys around the supermarket, and on the child seats inside the trolleys are other fully grown adults like me. There are fully grown women painfully stuck in the trolley child seat, and there is even a 7-foot-tall man in a trolley child seat. The people pushing the trolleys just seem to be calmly shopping around and chatting to other shoppers pushing trolleys, while they all calmly ignore the cries for help from the fully grown adults inside the trolley child seats. I am suffering so much right now. I just want to get off, but it's becoming more tighter. I see another large man stuck in a trolley child seat, screaming in pain. Then I could hear his bones breaking. I started begging the woman who was pushing the trolley that I was stuck on the child seat to help me to go free. Then she shouted at me, "I am spoiling you with problems and problems that are unique, and you are being so ungrateful. Why is it that when people are spoiled with problems, they just become so blind to everything that they have? Be grateful for the problems I am spoiling you with, and there are some people in this world who are starved of problems." Then I tried using my legs to fight back, but the child seat on the trolley just got tighter, and I could feel my ribs breaking. I can taste blood in my mouth, and breathing is difficult. And the large man on the trolley child seat next to mine, he is dead. Be wary of the house decorator. I don't know where he came from, and I had never seen him before in my area. A couple of months ago, I stepped out of my house and a ragged man was next to my car, and he shook my hand. "Hello, I would like to decorate my living room with your letters of unpaid house bills," he told me. There was something about his voice that made me weak, and he simply walked off. After that first meeting, I got a phone call from my boss, and he sounded a little strange, like he was being controlled. "Hello, Martin. I am firing you because you need to start receiving letters about unpaid house bills so that the decorator can put them up on his living room walls," my boss told me. I tried calling him back, but got nothing. And when I took my company to court for unlawful dismissal, the judge seemed like he was being mind-controlled, and the same with the lawyers. The judge told me that it was for good reason that I had been fired, so that I could start receiving letters about unpaid house bills for the decorator to decorate his walls. Any job I applied to would reject me for the same reasons, which is that I needed to start getting letters about unpaid bills for the decorator's living room walls. As I couldn't find another job, I started receiving bill payments for water, heating, mortgage, electricity, and tax, which all quickly added up. Then those letters disappeared, and I got a letter from the decorator which read, "I have received enough letters from you about the unpaid house bills, which looked nice on my living room walls." I was finally able to get a job, but then the decorator randomly met up with me at the supermarket, and he said, "My front room walls will look nice with newspaper clippings that are about the death of your family." And he simply walked away. I contacted the police and told them everything, but they simply told me, "Sir, of course your family needs to die because the decorator needs newspaper clippings about your murdered family for his front room wall." I am so terrified. I decided to keep my hair rather than find out where my son was being kept after he was abducted. I missed having hair on my head, and I had turned fully bald. I have tried every sort of treatment that supposedly claimed that could bring hair back to my bald head, but all had disappointingly failed. Then I heard of a man who could bring hair back through any one of his secret answers, and I grew curious. I went to this man and I paid him his charge. He didn't use any fancy chemical or any kind of science. He simply got out a pen and wrote something on my bald head. I wasn't allowed to see it. Then hair started growing around my head, and I looked at him in amazement. He told me that he wrote down one of his secrets on my bald head. My hair grew over it as it was covering it all up. I only had hair for a full month before it started falling out again, and I could read what he had written on my head. "I stole my neighbor's ball," was what I found, which had been written on my head by this guy, and it was one of this man's many secrets. I went straight back to that man, and he told me that the strength and importance of a secret reflects the strength and length of life the hair will live up to. I told him that I wanted hair that would last 30 years. He looked at me and told me that it would be expensive, and I told him that I had money. He told me that he would give me a call when he was ready to work on my bald head. I waited for months. At that time, my eldest son also went missing. We even got the police involved. Then that man phoned me and told me that he could start working on my head, as he had a secret that could give me hair to last 30 years. I paid the man, and he wrote something on my head, and I wasn't allowed to see it, as usual. My hair grew back even stronger and more amazing, and I asked him what his latest secret was. "The latest secret of mine, which I wrote the truthful answer to on your head, is the whereabouts of your missing son. That secret of mine is strong. It will give a long life to your full head of hair," the man told me. So it was he who abducted my son, and only he knows where my son is being kept. He wrote the secret whereabouts of my son on my head, and my beautiful hair is covering it all up. So, it's either my hair or my son? I decided to go with my hair, as my son is a failure anyway. I am a death row inmate's last meal. I have been chosen to be a death row inmate's last meal. I was really terrified at first, but people were telling me about how much honor there is to be someone's last meal. This criminal had committed horrific crimes, which ranged from not wanting to be eaten by another death row inmate, then suddenly deciding to be the last meal for someone on death row. When the time came for him to be eaten, he didn't let the death row inmate eat him. Rather, he attacked the prisoner, and he had eaten the prisoner instead. The prisoner wanted to eat him raw and alive, which is how he was able to attack him. He had done this multiple times, and he is a scorned individual. He had been put on death row, and he has chosen me to be his last meal. I have no idea why. I was terrified, and then I would become joyful at the same time for being chosen to be someone's last meal. They had put so much emphasis on eating me and cooking me and sprinkling me with the best spices. I would be decorated, and like I said, I go from joy to terror. When I go to terror, people put me down for feeling such things towards being someone's last meal. I have met the prisoner who has chosen me to be his last meal, and by law, I cannot say no. This prisoner is telling me not to make the same mistake as he did and try to stop it from happening. So he decided to cook me instead of eating me raw, so that I wouldn't be alive to run away when the time comes for me to be eaten. Even in his last moments, he is thinking about my honor. I remember trembling in front of him, and he said to me, "Do not fear, Greggle. When I eat you as my last meal, I will remember every taste, and I will remember every texture, and I will be grateful for you being my last meal on earth." Then, after he said that, I didn't feel terror anymore, and I felt stupid for feeling terror in the first place. I felt grateful that he had chosen to eat me as his last meal before he died. I will be the last thing he will taste of life before he dies, and I am truly honored for this. I will not run away or give in to the temptation to escape, even if some people are offering it to me. I am going to be someone's last meal, and what a meal it will be. How I got free surgery. I was born with 2 extra arms and 2 extra legs. As you can guess, my life is terrible, and I hate living. To make matters worse, my parents are so goddamn poor, and they are still having more kids. They cannot afford the surgery that I need, and no one will give any kind of charity towards us because my parents are not good people. I hate all of this, and I just want to have a normal body that has only 2 arms and 2 legs. I want to be able to walk among the crowds with no one staring at me, or taking photos, or recording video footage of me. I just want to be normal, and not some kind of freak show. A couple of months ago, I had a somewhat genius idea that came upon me. A week later, after I had my genius idea, I recorded myself on camera telling the world that I had placed bombs on 3 buildings. The police, the army, and other secret officials raided my home and took me away to be tortured, essentially. I was definitely more infamous than I had ever been. They kept shouting at me and hitting me to force me to tell them which 3 buildings I had placed the bombs in. Then they went to the extreme stuff, where they started chopping stuff up and causing actual bodily pain. When they chopped off my 2 extra arms and legs, I was now normal. I told them where I placed the bombs, but don't worry, the bombs were fake. I now had only 2 arms and legs, and I was now normal. Essentially, I had just received a free surgery. Yes, it was painful, but when I thought about how normal I would be perceived, I gritted my teeth and went through it. I am healing now, and I am receiving rehabilitation. I have also cut out all ties with my family. The doctor owes me a sick child. I am looking down at the doctor's body, which I had struck down because he had cured my son. For a moment, he looks like he is going to come back to life, but he is definitely dead. I am no doctor, but I know when something is dead. I am also going to go after the so-called friends who took my sickly son to the doctor in the first place to be cured. My son's sickness was a blessing and a gift. I am going to be even more ruthless to my terrible friends. What they did to me and my family, I will never forgive. When my son was born so sickly and diseased, yes, we were worried. Then my wife and I decided to film and document our son's tough life with the disease. Suddenly, our videos became popular, and we had a new stream of income. People loved seeing my son coping with his illness, and I even managed to quit my day job. His illness became a blessing for our family, and I never thought such a thing could happen. We did videos with other families with sickly children, and it was amazing. Then, my wife and I started getting emails from doctors telling us that they could now cure my son, as a cure was discovered. We instantly turned them down because if we cured our son, then our new income and lifestyle would be completely destroyed. More doctors kept emailing us about curing our son, and we just stopped replying to them. Then, doctors looking for a bit of fame started to come up to us on the streets and tell us how they could cure our son. I actually started to get angry after my patience was beginning to be tested. These doctors wanted a bit of fame for curing my son, and then their own reputation could be advertised. I wasn't going to let that happen. When I told my friends what I had done, they were against me. My friends then told me that if doctors can now cure my son, then I should do it. I told them about our new lifestyle and income from our son's illness, but they didn't listen. They even started raising their voices at us, and my wife and I just left the scene. Then our friends apologized to both me and my wife, and they organized a sleepover party for my son. We accepted, and we left our son with a friend of ours who had organized the sleepover party for our son. The next day, it was all over the news that our son had been cured. Then, when I thought that I had killed the doctor who cured my son, it was his twin brother. Then, when I finally caught him, he begged me to let him go. I told him that he owed me a sick child. Thank you for watching and listening until the very end. You kicked total ass.